He walked into the station as the fluorescent lights hummed overhead, his face pale, eyes wide, voice shaking as he gasped 3 words. "I think I did something bad." Every head in the room turned. Silence swallowed the station. In that instant, the ordinary shifted. A wave of cold dread rolled through the air, and a single question echoed in every mind. What had he done? That question would ignite a chain reaction of horror, grief, and unanswered mysteries that rattled a quiet town. This is the story of what happened next. It began 6 nights earlier. The victim, 42-year-old Jonathan John Marks, was a mild-mannered office clerk living alone in a modest, well-kept home on Cedar Avenue in the small city of Riverdale. Neighbors described him as polite, quiet, someone who kept to himself, rarely making noise, and often leaving early in the morning for work at the local electric utility company. The neighborhood was unremarkable. Tree-lined sidewalks, streetlights that buzzed softly at night, mailboxes with chipped paint, families with tidy lawns. On the night of June 3rd, the air was warm, sticky with lingering humidity from a summer storm earlier that day. The streets were silent after midnight. Only the distant hum of a refrigerator or the occasional bark of a dog disturbed the night. John S. house was dark when the clock struck 2 in the morning. All lights off except for a small lamp on his desk in the living room, casting a weak yellow glow through the curtained windows. Inside, John sat hunched over bills and utility statements, leafing through letters with a quiet sigh. He hadn't expected company. At approximately 2:17 a.m., a single knock shattered the silence. Tentative, polite, almost apologetic. John froze. He glanced silently toward the door, confusion flickering on his face. Another knock, firmer, impatient now. With caution, he rose and walked slowly to the door, peering through the peephole. A man stood outside, mid-30s, dark hair, neatly dressed, tie slightly askew, his eyes hidden under shadow. The visitor's voice, calm, quiet, drifted through the door as John cracked the latch. "Excuse me," the man said softly. "I'm sorry to bother you this late. My car broke down just down the street. I saw your lights and wondered if I could call a tow truck. My phone died." There was a pause too long. The man shifted, as if uncomfortable, glancing over his shoulder. "Please, it won't take long." Something in the man's tone, the desperation, the subtle tremble, made John hesitant, but compassion won over caution. He unlocked the door. They spoke for a few moments through the screen, John offering to use his phone. The man stepped inside. By then John was on edge, uneasy, scanning the man's face and posture. The stranger introduced himself softly as Mark Holden. He thanked John, took the phone, made a brief call, then said the tow truck was inbound. He appeared relieved. John nodded politely, raised an eyebrow, glanced at the clock on his wall. It was 2:22 a.m., just 5 minutes after the knock. At first, everything seemed normal. Mark paced slightly, restless. John fetched a glass of water. As it tornado fad echoed, too quiet to register at first. He spun around. Mark stood, staring at nothing. His hand hovered at his side. Confused, John asked if he needed something else. Mark said he was fine, muttered thanks, turned soothingly without warning. The lamp in the corner flickered and died. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and oppressive. The man moved swift, precise. And John felt pressure at the back of his head, a searing pain, the world tilting, sounds warping. He crumpled, the glass shattered at his feet, water and splinters scattering, but John was beyond registering any of it. Voices, one low and calm, the other wild and panicked, collided in the darkness. A heavy boot on the floorboards, a desperate gasp, and then silence. When the lamp flickered back to life seconds later, Mark stood by the door, drenched in sweat, breathing ragged. In his hand he held the phone, dangling uselessly. The room was a wreck, shards of glass glinting on the floor, the lamp askew, paper scattered, the air thick with the metallic scent of blood. John lay motionless by the desk, back arched at an unnatural angle. Mark heaved, his eyes wild, a whisper escaping his lips. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. He crouched beside the lifeless body, trembling. On impulse, he snatched John's wallet and keys, shoved them into his jacket, and bolted, vanishing into the night as quickly as he'd arrived. Days passed in agonizing stillness. The house was quiet. Neighbors noticed nothing. There was no sign of forced entry. The front door had swung shut behind the stranger. The back door was locked. No windows broken. No neighbors heard any commotion. John's friends were puzzled when he didn't show up for work Monday morning, concerned when he failed to answer calls. His absence was eventually reported. On June 5th, his body was discovered by his landlord, letting themselves in with a spare key after repeated knock attempts went unanswered. The landlord staggered back at the sight. The living room half lit, debris everywhere, the corpse slumped against the desk, dried blood staining his shirt, eyes open wide in final shock. The police were called. The crime scene became an instant vortex of questions. Detectives combed to the house for fingerprints. The stranger had worn gloves. No usable prints. DNA swabs returned only John's and unidentified DNA found on the lamp switch and door handle. The wallet and keys stolen suggested robbery, yet nothing else was taken. The TV was intact. A small safe in the bedroom untouched. Valuables lay undisturbed. The motive seemed nowhere near robbery. Surveillance cameras on Cedar Avenue were outdated, with poor resolution, and only captured a dark silhouette stepping into a black sedan roughly 15 minutes after 2:30 a.m. No license plate. The sedan sped away toward the city outskirts. Investigators dubbed it the Black Sedan. Then, 4 nights later, at 3:41 a.m., the suspect arrived at the Rivatan police station. He opened the door, paused under the harsh fluorescent lights, and with trembling hands, eyes darting, confessed, "I think I did something bad." He gave his name, Mark Holden, but provided no address. He looked around hazily, as if waiting for someone else to speak first. Detectives stared at him, silent, uncomprehending. He repeated the words slowly, dragging each syllable. "I think I did something bad." His eyes filled with tears. That simple admission sprung a wave of adrenaline through the station. Cameras, notepads, evidence bags, questions. He was taken aside. Interrogation began. Hours stretched into a blur. Mark denied remembering much. He said he remembered calling a tow truck, remembering John's phone call. Then a surge of anger or fear. He couldn't describe. A flash of panic when the lamp went out. He heard a voice, felt compelled. He remembered no blow, no movement, only the sense of something terrible. He said he blacked out. Police pressed, "Did you plan this?" He shook his head violently. "Did you bring the tools?" Sniffed. "No." "Did you know him?" He hesitated. "No. You have no apparent motive. Why did you steal the wallet and keys?" He closed his eyes, tears streaming. He ran. "I was scared," he whispered. "I looked at him. Saw him there. I blacked out. I'm sorry." But no apology could explain the wound. No memory could undo the crime. That night, detectives searched his abandoned apartment, a small one-bedroom unit in a shabby building on the east side, but found nothing suspicious. No muddy clothes, no bloodstains, no traces of John's DNA. He had cleaned his car and disposed of his jacket. The only thing recovered: a burned-out glove inside a kitchen trash bin and a cheap phone charger. The phone he used to call the tow truck with no SIM card. Forensics found trace DNA on the glove, partially matching John's, partially unknown. As for the charger, no fingerprints, no useful prints, nothing. It was as if the killer had never touched anything with bare hands. Public reaction was immediate. Sanity returned to reality. Rivatan, a town that prided itself on safety, became a place of hushed whispers and locked doors. News outlets ran the story for days. Office clerk found murdered in home. Witness confesses at police station. Who was Mark Holden? Fear permeated through communities. Speculation mounted. Some said perhaps Mark was mentally ill, that the crime was random, that John was chosen solely because his house was quiet and vulnerable. Others whispered darker theories. Maybe it wasn't Tejas Mark. Maybe someone else ordered the hit. Maybe John knew something. Maybe there had been threats, but the police had no leads, no connection between victim and suspect. Background checks on Mark revealed a clean criminal record. No known ties to John, no debt, no relationship. He worked as a freelance driver. Nothing suspicious, no steady address. Lived week to week. His friends described him as quiet, polite, paying his dues. His landlord said he kept to himself, paid rent on time. Barry said hello. Nothing flagged him as dangerous. During the trial, his defense attorney insisted on the blackout, temporary insanity due to extreme stress and panic disorder, triggered by a breakdown of his car earlier that night. The prosecution argued premeditation, a stranger entering a home, wearing gloves, carrying a phone charger, stealing wallet and keys, no signs of duress, no ration. They pointed to the desperate call to the tow truck as staged. The phone charger as a clean mechanism. The stolen keys as a sign of intent to prevent identification. Several expert witnesses testified. The wound to John's head was consistent with a swift strike from a heavy blunt object. The lamp base found near the body matched prints of Mark's gloves. DNA on the lamp switch and handle matched partially Mark's, partially unknown, suggesting he touched other surfaces with bare hands. But the prosecution could not determine if the blow was intentional or panicked. The jury deliberated for 48 hours. In the end, they found him guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. Some families of victims cried for justice, claiming at least some closure. Others believed the true story was more complicated, that another person had planned the break-in, that Mark was a pawn, that someone else awaited in the shadows. Yet the case never fully settled. The unknown DNA on the lamp and door handle never matched anyone in the national database. No other suspects were identified. No motive surfaced beyond the flimsy broken car and panic. Neighbors with home cameras reported nothing. A highway patrol truck, as dashcam from a distant road, had footage of a black sedan passing at 2:47 a.m. that night. But resolution to poor, license plate unreadable. Rumors circulated of a second car trailing behind. A hooded figure in the passenger seat, maybe a lookout. Investigators followed the lead. Traced tow truck calls in the area that night. None matched the number Mark used. No record of a tow truck arrival at Cedar Avenue. The number belonged to a throwaway burner phone, purchased minutes before the call at a convenience store in a neighboring county. The clerk told police the man paid cash, wore a hoodie and sunglasses, walked away immediately. Security footage captured nothing further. The trail went cold. The public mourned. Some lit candles outside John's house, left flowers, cardboards, reading "Rest in Peace, John." Others painted vigil posters. Justice for John. No more silence. The night air seemed heavier, the trees more ominous, the shadows deeper. Conversations hushed, doors locked earlier. Children slept with lights on. In bars and diners, people whispered theories. Drug debt, blackmail, hidden secrets. Someone jealous of John. But police found nothing. The case became known as the Cedar Avenue Mystery. Over time, interest waned for many, but a small group kept digging. A retired detective, a true crime putt, a former neighbor who said she heard a scream but thought it was thunder. Each piece faint, contradictory, unconfirmed. One night the retired detective visited Mark in prison. Mark sat in a dim cell, chin buried in his hands, rocking gently. The detective asked, "Do you remember anything new?" Mark looked up, eyes hollow. "I see him sometimes," he whispered, "behind the door, watching, waiting." The detective pressed. "Who?" Mark clenched his jaw. "I don't know." "I don't remember his face, but I remember the scent and the fear. That was 10 months ago. No follow-up, no evidence, no breakthrough. So here we are now." A man admitted guilt. A man was convicted. The public feels some sense of justice served. But the question lingers. Was he truly the sole actor? Was the unknown DNA enough to suspect a second person? Could the black sedan silhouette hide a partner? Could that burner phone have belonged to someone else? Could the tow truck call have been a ruse orchestrated by a third party? The files remain open. The unknown DNA remains unknown. The seat in the black sedan is empty. The night hides its secrets still. As the streetlights flicker on Cedar Avenue after midnight, a hush falls over the houses. The wind rustles leaves. From upstairs windows, curtains twitch. Somewhere, perhaps behind another locked door, the unanswered questions settle like dust waiting for a breath to stir them. So I ask you the next time you walk past a quiet house late at night or hear a knock at your door, remember this story. Because evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just whispers. Maybe you're the next to answer. If you want to dive deeper into the unsolved clues, mysterious shadows, and hidden threads of this case, subscribe to Midnight Crime Vault and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we uncover next.